It's impossible to have missed the tension between Russia, Ukraine, and the West. For the last couple of days, the tensions are getting higher and higher. Russia is threatening the West, and on their turn, the West is threatening Russia. In this video, we will discuss what is happening right now between Russia, the West, and Ukraine, and what kind of effect this has on the worldwide economy, because believe it or not, it could have tremendous effects on the worldwide economy. Welcome to the Echocation channel, where we keep you informed of all major politics and economic subjects worldwide. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update. Since 2014, there are tensions between Russia and Ukraine. After the Ukraine's Maidan Revolution ended in February 2014, the Ukraine's parliament appointed an acting president and acting prime minister to take charge of Ukraine. They made it clear their intention to draw Ukraine closer to Europe by signing an association agreement with the European Union. Almost immediately thereafter, armed soldiers began occupying key facilities and checkpoints on the Crimean Peninsula. At first, Putin denied that these soldiers were Russian soldiers, but in a later stage he admitted it. Things move quickly. The march of Russian troops has secured the entire peninsula, and the Crimean Supreme Council voted to ask to accede to Russia. On the 18th of March, Crimean and Russian officials signed the Treaty of Accession of the Republic of Crimea to Russia. But still up to the present day, the West does not acknowledge the annexation of Crimea by Russia. Tension between Russia and Ukraine are at their highest point this year, and causing fears that Russia will launch an invasion at any time. But Russia has denied ever since that they are planning to attack Ukraine. However, the United States and the NATO have described the movements and concentrations of the troops in and around Ukraine as unusual. Despite warnings from the President of the United States, Joe Biden, and European leaders of serious consequences if Putin moves ahead within an invasion, Russia is building up more and more troops along the Ukrainian border. According to the United States, there are as many as 100,000 Russian troops at this point, and they believe it could double on relatively short order. U.S. officials have said it is likely that Russia could invade Ukraine at any point in the next month or two. Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov and the Foreign Minister of the United States, Blinken, have held what they called frank talks in order to try and reduce a wider conflict in Ukraine. According to Blinken, the talks were frank and substantive, while for Lavrov, the talks were also frank, with an agreement to have a reasonable dialogue. Lavrov hopes that emotions will decrease. On his turn, Blinken has warned Russia of a united, swift, and severe response if Russia will invade Ukraine. He also urged Russia to stop aggressions towards Ukraine, pointing out the possibility that Russia could invade Ukraine from the south, east, and north. On top of that, he confirmed that the United States would continue to deliver security assistance to Ukraine in the coming weeks. Unfortunately, this meeting did not end with a breakthrough. According to the U.S. Embassy, the first shipment of $200 million security support package has arrived in Ukraine. This package was already approved in Washington in December of 2021. The U.S. Embassy said on Facebook, 22nd of January, the United States will continue providing such assistance to support Ukraine's armed forces in their ongoing effort to defend Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity against Russian aggression. Of course, the Ukraine's defense minister thanked the U.S. for the aid. In addition, the Baltic nations of Lithuania, Estonia, and Latvia will send U.S.-made anti-tank and anti-aircraft missiles to Ukraine in order to strengthen its ability to defend itself against Russia's aggression. The spokesman for Russian President Putin, Dmitry Peskov, said earlier that the Western arms supplies to Ukraine is extremely dangerous and that the West do nothing to reduce tensions. In return, the West has rejected the main demands of Moscow, which are promises that Ukraine will never be added as a NATO member, that no alliance's weapons will be deployed near Russia's border, and that it will pull back its forces from Central and Eastern Europe. How are other Western countries responding to the tensions between Russia and Ukraine? Let's start with the Netherlands. The Netherlands spotted what they called Russian landing ships along the Dutch coast, and these ships are probably heading to the Black Sea. This could indicate an operation in the Sea of Azov, a relatively small sea under Ukraine. Also, the Dutch Prime Minister has responded to the situation. He said that the Netherlands is willing to help Ukraine, but only with defensive military aid, not with military troops. The Dutch Prime Minister will fly to Ukraine in the beginning of February because, as he said, the Netherlands feels connected with Ukraine. And of course, the Netherlands hope for a diplomatic solution to de-escalate the situation. Also, Canada is involved in the situation in Ukraine. According to the media, Canadian Special Forces operators have been deployed to Ukraine. This presence is a part of an attempt by NATO allies to deter Russian aggression in Ukraine and to identify ways to assist the Ukrainian government. Besides, the unit has also been tasked to help with an evacuation plan for Canadian diplomatic personnel if the situation will escalate. Prime Minister Trudeau made an announcement after the Canadian government confirmed a loan up to $120 million on the 21st of January, saying, "Russia is aiming to destabilize Ukraine, including economically. This loan will help support Ukraine's economic resilience. On top of that," he said, "we are also exploring other options to provide financial aid and other support." Again, Canada calls on Russia to de-escalate and engage in meaningful dialogue. On the contrary, Germany's defense minister, Christine Lambrecht, said that sending arms to Ukraine would not be helpful in diffusing the current situation, as fears of a Russia invasion continue to mount. She said, "We are standing on Kiev's side. We have to do everything to de-escalate." Currently, arms deliveries would not be helpful in this aspect. There is agreement on this in the German government. But Germany is willing to help Ukraine in other tools. Lambrecht said, "Ukraine will receive a complete field hospital to gather the necessary training in February, all co-financed by Germany for €5.3 million. Ukraine has accused Germany of undermining unity among the country's allies and of encouraging Putin by refusing to deliver arms to Kiev. If Russia will invade Ukraine and the West acts on their turn, this could have a lot of economic consequences even for you. For example, oil prices have already risen to their highest point in the last 7 years. A conflict between Russia and Ukraine would have the potential to drive these prices much higher. That is because Russia is the number 2 oil producer in the world, and Ukraine is a key energy transit hub, where a large amount of Russian natural gas exports to Europe flow through. Besides Ukraine, they are also working on the Nord Stream 2 pipeline in Germany. Germany has already signaled that it could halt the Nord Stream 2 pipeline if Russia would invade Ukraine. This, of course, could have tremendous effects on the energy supply from Russia to Europe and the rest of the world. For example, gasoline prices could rise. Riding a car could be much more expensive. Therefore, the United States is talking to energy companies and countries in order to have a backup if Russia would indeed invade Ukraine. Besides the fear of rising oil and natural gas prices, there is also the fear that grains and wheat prices will rise. Because Russia is the number 1 exporter of wheat worldwide, and Ukraine is projected to be the 3rd largest exporter of corn in 2021/2022 season, and the 4th largest exporter of wheat. The tension could push the prices even further and add further pressure to food inflation, which has already been a major concern across the globe. On the contrary, we see that investors will switch to safe haven products. For example, bonds, which represent the safest assets on the world, and it might not be different this time. We see that the 2-year US Treasury yields have made the biggest jump in a month since 2016. This could cause, for example, that borrowing money or for a mortgage would be much more expensive for individuals. On top of that, gold prices, another safe haven, is already at its 2-month peak. So after all, the tension between Russia and Ukraine does not impact only those 2 countries, but could have major effects for the world economy. What are your thoughts? Do you think Russia will invade Ukraine? How does that translate to the world economy? Will the West take more actions in order to punish Russia? Or do you think that the situation will de-escalate? Let us know in the comment section below. For more interested topics of worldwide politics and economic subjects, like, subscribe, and put your notifications on in order to always be updated on what's going on in the world.